Hello. I just got over a cold recently, but I want to film this video outside in my local park, partly because it's related to what I want to discuss today, but I am still in the city, so you might hear the sounds of trains or sirens or birds up in the trees, or there's lots of dog walkers around here, so they might be milling around in the background. But I always find the experience of having a cold slightly strange, that it takes me outside of my ordinary everyday experience. So, of course, most of our days are filled up with this sense of, oh, I must get up at a certain time, and I must shower because I must get a certain train to get to work or to take my children to school. And so much of our daily lives are filled up with this sense of must, which is something that Virginia Woolf discusses in her novel The Waves, which is my favorite book of all time, where one of the characters remarks, must, detestable word, because there is this sense that our inner lives, the things that we want to be doing and thinking about all day are interrupted by all of this ordinary experience that is the stuff that makes up ordinary life. And of course, a lot of this is things that I feel really engaged with, and but there is this, endless sense of obligation. But when you have a cold and when you stay home sick, that takes you outside of that ordinary sense. It slightly reminds me also of when I was a child growing up in the state of Maine, and we would have snow days when we would stay home from school. And so when I'm sick, I'm sat at home and I'm looking out the window and I can see everyone going about their daily lives of taking children to school or going off to work. But I am just sat at home and I'm entirely removed from that, and of course I'm feeling really rough, and so I don't want to do very much, but I did read a book which felt really perfect for this experience, and that helped me think about this sense of what is the stuff that makes up our lives. Is it all of the daily tasks that we have to go through, or is it this sense of an inner life and what we're thinking and feeling throughout the day and experiencing? And so aside from just kind of lying on the sofa when I was feeling at my worst and watching endless MasterChef episodes, I did read a book, which is the sequel to a book that I'd read earlier this year of On the Calculation of Volume, which is the very first book in a planned 7-book series. But I read the second book in this series, the continuing adventures of the central character of Tara, who is in a very strange predicament where every day she wakes up, it is still November 18th, but she still recalls yesterday and every day that went before that, all of the other November 18th that she lived through, but everyone else in the world, and as far as she knows, and the environment around her, it is replicating exactly what happened the day before, but she is still continuing to age and change, and she is able to slightly affect some things around her, not everything, but it's never entirely consistent. And so as I talked about with the first volume, I was interested in this as a story and a plot, as a plot device. That's quite a hook to try to understand why this is happening, but also the dynamics of the rules to being stuck in the same day over and over again. But as I remarked with the first volume, I don't think the how and why of it is necessarily the most interesting thing about this book, but more as a meditation on human relationships and our individual existence and our temporal relationship to the material world around us, and how she explores this in these notebooks which are recording her days going forward. I think is so fascinating. Now, I just want to note that if you've not read the first book in this series, I don't think you should immediately go to the second book. That would be quite disorientating, I think, because she does a little bit to explain the nature of Tara's predicament in this story, but not all that much. And so if you're not familiar with it and how her relationship with her husband Thomas, who she is now left behind, and she's kind of traveling throughout the world away from their home, then I think you'd find it quite disorientating. So I'd highly recommend going to read the first book before getting to this second book. But something that this novel explores so much in this particular volume of the story is the sense of seasons, because in this book it kind of picks up immediately where the first book left off, and she has gone through an entire year of experiencing the 18th of November, and so now she is starting to really miss the seasons and the traditions that come with holidays. So feeling this sense of loss and wanting to reconstruct a sense of the year, even though she is still living within the same day that has the same environmental conditions of it as the day before, and how we have this sense of traditions which we go through every single year, but that we look forward to and that becomes so much a part of our existence. That's kind of in the background of daily life that we are thinking about, that we are looking forward to, and so I thought it was really moving how she describes that traditions don't need to harmonize. They simply have to be there. They have to be there as a sort of safety net, to give one something to land on when the world falls apart, when time fractures. And so there is this sense in the book that these traditions can form a structure for her where she feels entirely set free of ordinary life, because she is still experiencing the same day, where everyone else, it's as if they are living it for the very first time. And so she is grappling and desperately trying to hold on to these structures of traditions and holidays, and so it's very moving how she goes back to her family home and spends time with her parents to recreate the sense of going through Christmas. And I think her family very conveniently just believe her that she has been living through November 18th for an entire year, and so kind of go along with this and indulge her. But it's very, very touching how she recreates this for herself. And then more than that, she wants to get a sense of the seasons changing, because she has just experienced the same environmental conditions for over a year, and this is also a sense that we have, I think, in the background of our everyday lives, that we are looking forward to the next season, whether we have a preference for the one that we're in or not. I mean, I kind of tend to prefer autumn as a season, which we are going into here in London, so you can see the leaves falling in the background and some colors changing up there in the trees. But yeah, this sense of looking forward to the next season. And so along with Christmas, she is really looking forward to a proper winter of being immersed in snow. And so she gets this idea to chase the seasons throughout the world as they are changing, because obviously in different parts of the world there are different seasons taking place. And so she goes to the far north of Europe and to the snow to immerse herself entirely in winter. And there's this wonderful section where she also writes about, well, because she meets this meteorologist when she injures herself and goes to a hospital, and she's speaking to this meteorologist and about the difference between our sense of the changing weather and the changing seasons, and how seasons are something that is more psychological for us, that because weather patterns, they don't necessarily adhere to these, neat seasons that we create for ourselves, and these stereotypical images of fall. All the leaves change and blanket the earth, and then in winter there's snow. And of course that is not the same for everyone everywhere in the world, especially not for people in the northern hemisphere versus the southern hemisphere. But yeah, here in Europe, I think we definitely have a sense of these are the changes to the season that we expect. And so it almost becomes this performance art where she wants to immerse herself completely in winter, to experience winter, and so she goes to the north of Europe, and we follow her on these journeys as she tries to chase the seasons by going to different parts of the continent that where the environment kind of mirrors what she psychologically believes the season should be. And there's this touching section when she's moving into spring, and she finds this umbrella with flowers on it, which seems to epitomize the sense of spring around her. And I just found it so moving how she goes about trying to recreate this and build a sense of the seasons, which inevitably collapses a bit because she is still in November 18th, and so there are reminders that no, this isn't actually the season that she is going through, and the holidays that she is expecting aren't actually occurring. And this made me think a bit about Ali Smith's great seasonal quartet of autumn, winter, spring, and summer, which she published over a series of years and which I grew to look forward to, but also how many of the characters in those novels, they are also looking forward to future seasons and thinking about how so much of our time in the present is spent looking forward to the future. So when we're in the depths of winter, we might say, oh, I can't wait for summer when the sun will come out again. But then in the midst of summer, we might find the heat really intense, and so be looking forward to autumn or winter. And I liked how there was a kind of parallel between this exploration of what the seasons mean to us psychologically, because I think so often, or at least I do, think of them as a phenomena that occur and that I just sort of expect to happen, and gradually over the course of different months, I find myself looking forward to and thinking about more like, oh, soon it's going to be autumn, soon it's going to be winter. And I think I would really struggle to live in an environment where the weather and meteorology is constant, that nothing really changes, although I assume lots of people get used to it living in LA or wherever, but yeah, I think that is something I would really struggle with. I mean, being a New England boy and growing up somewhere where the seasons would change so markedly. And so she finds over the course of her second year in this second volume that her sense of seasons are something that she can't really hold on to, and this pushes her into this interesting, more interior, contemplative space where she, I think, is learning how to exist more in the present, which is very moving and thoughtful, and where time can exist rather than thinking of our lives as a timeline that we are moving throughout and moving towards something, that she's just existing in the present. And she gets kind of semi-obsessed about Roman history and goes down this rabbit hole of investigating Roman history, partly inspired by this old Roman coin that she's been carrying with her throughout her travels and journeys that was given to her, and which seems to have a bigger like symbolic weight in the story. But I like how this experience of getting kind of obsessed with a certain subject does kind of mirror my own experience when I get really excited about a certain subject and want to learn a lot more about it. And you know that sense of when you go down a rabbit hole of investigating something and it feels like time is just disappearing, like time doesn't really matter because you are so much in this mental space of conceptualizing it. But she seems to be marrying these two conceptions of being both out of time but also exactly in the moment and the time that she is experiencing. So there's this sense of her reconception of time where there's a line that says, "My time is not a circle, and it is not a line. It is not a wheel, and it is not a river. It is a space, a room, a pool, a vessel, a container. It is a backyard with a medlar tree and autumn sunshine." And I just think that is such a beautiful way of reconceptualizing where we are in the present, what we as individuals are doing in the here and now, and understanding time rather than being caught in this endless of, oh, I must do this, I must go to work, I must get this thing done for the weekend, and over the weekend I need to get these chores done, and this constant sense of must, and how standing outside of that we can kind of reassess and renegotiate our relationship to the present and the current time that we're living through. And I just love how this book gave me this sense of this, and this continuing series is giving me this sense of this. And it also reminded me somewhat of one of my favorite books that I read this year, of The Book of Records by Madeline Thien, which also has this interesting way through its plot of reconfiguring how you think about time and people who have existed over a long period of time, and how maybe they can all coexist at the same moment. And so I've been really enjoying this series, and also this ends on quite a cliffhanger, which I won't give away, although it does make me worry slightly that the author is artificially, building in these cliffhangers as a way of getting readers to then read the next book in the volume. I'm not entirely sure that these books needed to be published separately because I think they probably can all be read in one big gulp, and I'm sure once all of the books come out, there'll be an omnibus edition of all of the books, although I think the author is still currently writing them, so it'll be interesting to see where she takes it next. But in a way, I'm kind of glad that these books are being parceled out to me over a period of time, so it's like that sense of growing up and being so involved in a sitcom, but having to wait till the next week until the next episode to find out what happens next, but in a much more sophisticated, like intellectual way that engages with a lot of these larger ideas about existence and our relationship to time and the world around us that I'm finding continuously moving. But yeah, I am really keen to find out what happens in the third book. So if you have been reading this series and if you've read the second book, I would love to know your thoughts about it in the comments below, or about any of the other issues that I've talked about, or if any of these issues have made you think about other things that you have read and that you would recommend to me. But yeah, I found this really the perfect thing to read while I was recovering from my cold, because of all of the ideas that it raises, and also it's written in a fairly straightforward way that is very engaging and just kind of a pleasure to read. So those are my thoughts on the second book in this series. We will see where I am and what I'm doing when the third book comes out, and if I still read that and make a response video to that, because I think this collection of videos of responding to these books will also form this kind of journey through time for me personally, of looking back on where I was and what I was doing through those particular periods of time. But I hope you're doing well and reading good things. I'll speak to you again soon. Bye-bye.